It goes without saying that 2020 has been a pretty weird year for all of us, myself included. When this year started, I was still primarily a channel that talked about movies. But given that two of my most anticipated movies of the year both dropped on Christmas Day on streaming services, I thought it would be a good return to form to give my thoughts on them. So here we go. Soul is the story of a middle school jazz band teacher named Joe Gardner, played by Jamie Foxx, who finds a potential opportunity to reignite his career with a promising gig until he, kinda dies in the first 10 minutes? Okay, not really, but he finds his soul in some place in between life and death, and he gets paired up with this other soul voiced by Tina Fey, and the two go out on this quest where Joe tries to help her find her purpose, or spark as they call it, and of course get his body back in time to make his gig. And oh boy, this movie kind of ended up just like I thought it would. When I first saw the trailer for this movie, I was like, yo, a Pixar movie starring black people playing jazz? This could be interesting. And they're doing Inside Out again. Just like I thought, the scenes in this movie that focus on Joe's life in New York are fantastic. The black representation was great to see and the jazz performances were beautiful. No spoilers, but there's this barbershop scene in this movie that's so unapologetically black, I just loved it. Pixar's rendition of New York City is stunning and frankly way more visually appealing than the Great Beyond and all the other fantastical parts of the world. Which is a good transition to talk about what I didn't like about this movie. For one, it lacks that tongue-in-cheek brand of quick-witted humor that Pixar's really good at. Most of the jokes fell flat for me, mainly because there's so many jokes involving this body-swapping bit midway through that's been done a cajillion times. Tina Fey's soul gets stuck in Jamie Foxx's body, and for 45 minutes, Jamie Foxx voices a cat and Tina Fey voices this guy. And that crap got old pretty quick. Speaking of the voice cast, it really didn't do it for me this time around. Jamie Foxx's voice doesn't match this guy very well, and Tina Fey kind of felt like she was phoning it in. Overall, this movie has some really good messages about living life to the fullest and not letting your career define your purpose in life, but the route it took to relay that message felt really undercooked. The New York stuff was great, but it was kinda undercut by having to spend half the movie in another generic Pixar dream world. None of the characters in this world were memorable or endearing, so it just didn't leave a good impression on me. If this movie was just about a struggling jazz artist who needs to learn how to appreciate life and that his career doesn't define him, with none of the discount Inside Out will crap in between, I'd love it. But as it stands currently, it's pretty average. 3 out of 5, moving on. But now we've arrived to the moment you've waited for. The biggest superhero blockbuster of the year. And yeah, a lot of people don't like it. To be completely honest, I was so disappointed that I didn't really like Soul that seeing a superhero movie as mediocre as this one was enough for me to call this movie absolutely fantastic. Alright, lesson learned. I'm never gonna watch or review movies when I'm half asleep at 2 a.m. Anyway, Wonder Woman 84, the sequel to the hit DC movie 3 years ago. The plot in this one isn't too elaborate, so I'm just kinda gonna breeze through it. It starts with this sick Olympic training flashback on Themyscira, and for a second you're like, yo, this is gonna be just as epic and heartfelt as the first movie. And then it's just Wonder Woman. But in the 80s! Her dead boyfriend Steve Trevor comes back because of this magical wishing rock thing, because reasons, I guess. Pedro Pascal plays this oil tycoon that wants to expand his empire and thus wishes to become the rock itself, and then this allows him to go around granting wishes by touching people. But the stone giveth and taketh away, and thus Diana starts to lose her powers as she has to choose between keeping Steve and saving the world. And yeah, Kristen Wiig is also in this movie. Look at that. She plays Barbara Minerva, who becomes Cheetah. She's basically female Electro from Amazing Spider-Man 2, the bumbling and neglected scientist that gets powers and demands to be taken seriously. And she looks like she belongs in the Cats movie by the end. It's bad. I don't know, man. Take her out of the movie entirely and it barely changes anything. I know it seems like I'm ragging on this movie pretty hard, but I actually enjoyed a good bit of it too. Pedro Pascal as Max Lord was an entertaining enough villain with some personal stakes behind him to get you to feel for him at times. Gal Gadot is great as Wonder Woman and brings all the strength and compassion and heart I know a character like this should have. Her chemistry with Chris Pine was here, and I like how their roles reverse from the first movie, with Steve being the fish out of water needing to be shown around and how this world works. The CG is pretty shoddy, but I thought for the most part the effects were serviceable. Apart from that final fight, holy crap. The last fight of this movie is just as bad as the two jars of jam humping each other at the end of Venom, let me tell you. The music is probably my favorite part of the entire movie. Seriously though, Hans Zimmer's Wonder Woman theme is so freaking iconic for me at this point. So yeah, this wasn't the show-stopping superhero romp I asked for. I think if you're in the mood for a female-led superhero movie, Birds of Prey has you covered on that front, but I still found it pretty enjoyable. Not amazing, not terrible. 3 out of 5. So yes, the Christmas double feature wasn't exactly a success, but I had some fun with it. It felt good to be finally talking about movies again. I really should make more of these, shouldn't I? But anyway, this is definitely my final video of the year. Thanks for tuning in all throughout 2020 and keeping me company through all the weird phases that this channel has gone through. I'm Pac. Thanks so much for hearing my perspective, and I will see you in the new year. Also, like the video and subscribe because it really helps out the channel. Bye!